Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is just a little book review catch-up of the books that I've read recently because I've actually cracked through a few books since last we spoke about books, so I'm so proud of myself. So I've actually read 4 books since I last did a little book review, so I don't have all of them with me, but so the first one is The Blessing. So my last book video was about Pigeon Pie, and so I mentioned The Blessing. They're both by Nancy Mitford. I quite liked Pigeon Pie. I hated The Blessing. I hated The Blessing. So it's set in just before World War II, and then war breaks out, or maybe the war's already started, but a young woman gets married to a man that she's only just met, who is a French soldier who then goes back to France or wherever to fight in the war. She has their baby whilst he's away, and then she's like alone with the baby and a nanny, because they're super rich, so the nanny is basically doing all of the actual looking after the child. It's super like weird, like parenting style, like nannying styles. So they're alone together for like 7 years, and then the French husband comes back and immediately says, okay, we're going back to France now, so we've got like an hour and then we're off on the train or whatever, the ferry, I guess, the boat. He is just horrible. Like, he's just awful. Like, I didn't see the appeal of him to begin with. He was just obnoxious, but he's just having affairs all over the place, and she gets a bit fed up, so she goes back to England and takes their son with her, and literally nobody has any sympathy for her whatsoever. They're all just like, just stop whining and just get back together with your husband, even though he's having an affair with literally everybody. And it's just really horrible. Like, the husband character is so horrible. The kid character is a little bit annoying at times, but he's just like such an odd, it's just really hard to like, I couldn't tell if it was just an unrealistic depiction of a young child or whether it was just like what kids were like then, because he seemed to be acting so much more grown up. And at one point, like, he climbed up onto some stone statues in Paris somewhere that you're not supposed to go on, and then there was a bit of a commotion, so his father just left him to make his own way home, and he was supposed to be about 7 or 8 years old or something at the time, and it's just like really weird. But then at the same time, he has like a nanny and a nursery, and he's being put to bed at like 6 o'clock or whatever, and it's like really this weird thing. I just, no, not for me. So then I read the book that I don't have. You just imagine it. How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen. It's just another parenting book. I just keep reading loads of parenting books. Have them like all here. There's a bunch of parenting books there. I can't remember the name of the authors, but yeah, it's just like practical tips for how to get kids to cooperate with you, basically. It's actually a really useful book if you have a young child. I think it's aimed at 2 to 7 year olds. If you have a young child, it's really, really useful. My biggest takeaway was make things playful. So I've just been trying to make things fun with my son, and it's been really working in getting him to do stuff like brushing his teeth and things. It makes an amazing difference. Like, yeah, I recommend that book. I don't have it here. I gave it to my boyfriend to read. Whether he's actually reading it, I couldn't tell you. So the next fiction novel book that I read was The Female Man by Joanna Russ. This was on my shelf for ages. I can't remember when I bought it, but like the cover's appealing, the title's interesting. It sounds like it's, you know, my alley, like a sort of feminist sci-fi book from the 72, 70 something, 1975. So it's got like 4 main characters. So Joanna's world is recognisable very much like ours, although obviously this was set in the 70s, so ours in the 70s in America. Janine's is like hers, except the Second World War never happened and the Great Depression is still going on. And Janet's world is rather different. On the planet While Away, there's no problem of relations between sexes because there is only one. So Janet is unfettered, she's free to lead her life as she wants as an able and competent being as a female man. I don't know that the book would really have the Janet character as being like a female man. I find that bit the way the blurb ends has been a bit odd, but it's quite interesting when you read like slightly older like feminist works or works that explore like gender politics and sexual relations or whatever, that, you know, it's still very like binary male female, so male female or a female man I guess would be like some kind of middle ground, except that it's not, because the Janet character sees herself, I think, very much as like as a woman, although it's just a different perhaps perspective, because there are no men on the planet While Away, because they have all the men died from a plague, or that's what she believes, and they've discovered a way for 2 women to reproduce, so they're just all female, and because their reproduction is, I guess, not artificial, but like it's they can choose the sex of the baby, but it's like no, that's not true, it's just because it's 2 women, so you're never going to get a boy. I got confused by that before as well, and then I remembered how chromosomes worked. Anyway, that's it, not important. But the point is, like, I don't know about that blurb. Anyway, they're all kind of pulled together from these different, like, sort of parallel but quite different worlds. And then there's a 4th figure who isn't introduced until later on, who is from a different world again, where there's like a war of the sexes, like a actual war. I don't know what I think of this book, because it was so confusing to read. I read the introduction, which is just a couple of pages long, and I'm so glad I did, because it really helped me to know roughly what was happening, because I wouldn't have known, for example, I mean, I guess you read the blurb, but like Janine's world, the Second World War never happened and the Great Depression is going on. Like, I wouldn't have got that from what I read, but to be honest with you, it was so hard to tell which character was which as you were reading it. It's probably a book that if you read it a couple of times, you get more out of it, because a lot of it is written in the first person, but then you don't know which person it is that, you know, you don't know which person it is, but I get that was the point, but I just found it really confusing and it really hard to keep track of what was happening. Joanna and Janine just got really confused in my head. Janet was just a really odd character that I didn't really get. She has a relationship with a teenage girl that I found a bit yucky, like, and the teenage girl's character was quite odd as well. Like, I just didn't get the characters, I didn't understand what was happening. I don't know what the conclusion was. There is a lot of, you know, criticism of how women were treated and women's place in society at the time. Again, in the 70s, things have changed since then, but actually a lot of it does still ring true. The bits I understood still rang true, but I didn't understand what was happening for most of the book. And then I went on to this one, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I like the fact it was so short. It's like 120 pages long, and the pages themselves have like a huge board around them, and you know, it was pretty easy, it was pretty quick to get through this. So this one was, I don't know, it looks so nice on the cover, like it's so appealing. I don't think I fully knew what it was about. So the blurb is, in 1985 in an Irish town, during the weeks leading up to Christmas, Bill Furlong, like a ridiculous name, Bill Furlong, a coal and timber merchant, faces his busiest season. As he goes around the houses making deliveries, he feels the past rising up to meet him and encounters the complicit silences of a small community controlled by the church. That sounded very intriguing, and I thought it would be kind of like a subtle thing, like he's going around visiting people's houses to drop off deliveries, and he just catches glimpses of things, and then pieces something together that's like a much bigger thing. The book is dedicated to the women and children who suffered time in Ireland's mother and baby homes and Magdalen laundries. So I know a little bit about that. It wasn't until I read that dedication that I kind of got, oh, I see what the story is going to be about. But yeah, so young women, young pregnant women were taken into church-run laundries where they were worked extremely hard to do laundry related things, washing and stuff, and a lot of times their babies were taken away from them, and it was really, really widespread and horrible, and a lot of babies actually died, so I don't know what they were doing to these kids, but yeah, just really horrible. Yeah, just really horrible. So I guess because it has that dedication, it kind of, it's not, you know, it tells you what the story is about. I wish that dedication wasn't there. I do get why she's put it in there, why she would want to put it in there, but maybe it could have gone at the back of the book, because it kind of, you know, I already knew going in, oh, it's going to be about that. But then the book isn't anywhere near as subtle as I thought it would be either. So Bill Furlong, who, again, just seems like a really silly name. I don't know if I found him very believable. So he was taken in by his employer, no, his mother's employer. His mother was like a maid who got pregnant, so she would have potentially been one of these girls in trouble. So it's like there but for the grace of God, or there but for the grace of this kind old lady that kind of took him in. He might have been in that situation, so it's probably why it troubles him more, and it seems like everyone is turning a blind eye to the plight of these girls because they're kind of like, you know, brought it on themselves kind of thing. But it's just, I don't know, it seems really odd to me because he just drops off some like coal or something and he sees these girls like scrubbing the floors, and it's like, has no one else noticed this? Like, how well hidden were they? And then he also drops off a delivery of coal, and he has to like break into the coal chute, I guess, and he finds like a girl who's been like sleeping in overnight in like the coal cellar, and he takes her back to the convent. But it's like, how has no one noticed or cared? But I guess maybe that's the point. But it's like, oh, but Bill Furlong, you know, hero of the hour. I don't know, I'm being quite hassy. I don't know, it wasn't particularly subtle, and it just didn't, I don't know, it didn't work for me. The funny thing is as well, I was reading this and I kept having to remind myself it was set in the 1980s, the mid-1980s, because it just reads so much older. I don't know if it's just the constant references to God, like, just because it's a religious community, not in a, like, cultish way. But it just, I kept thinking about Stranger Things, and I kept thinking, I do not know how this fits into the same world as Stranger Things. I know Stranger Things is fictional, but I mean, this is also fictional. This is based in something that actually happened, much more believably set in reality than Stranger Things. But I think all the 1980s stuff from Stranger Things has been kind of shown to be quite accurate, and I can't sort of reconcile in my head that the two things going side by side at the same time. Anyway, yeah, kind of a disappointment. Nice cover though. And that is all the books I've finished, and I've just started reading The Underground Railroads. This is one boyfriend bought me for Christmas? Yeah, must be Christmas. So I was kind of put off by the fact that it's about slavery and people trying to flee slavery by going on the Underground Railroad, which is quite a perilsome journey, and I just assumed correctly that there'd be a lot of horrible violence and, you know, horrible things in the book. Also, it just seemed like it's on the longer side, I mean, compared to like that one. But it's already pretty good. I'm on page 87 or something. I'm only on the third chapter. The first chapter was 11 pages long. The second chapter was whatever, 60 something pages long, 70 pages long. I don't know, they tricked me. He tricked me, Colson Whitehead, with that first chapter being so short. But then the second chapter was a little bit longer. But it's going right, and it's going at like quite a quick pace. We're not hanging around, which I think when there's like grotesque violence happening, you don't really want to hang around. You want to like, let's keep moving, let's keep this story going, let's not dilly-dally around. So horrible things have happened already, horrible things, but it's written in kind of a not like super sensationalized way. It's almost like a matter-of-fact way of like describing what had happened, which is making it sort of bearable to read. So anyway, this is the book that I'm currently reading. That is it. My rambling rambles of book reviews. Let me know what you think if you've read any of those books. No spoilers on the Underground Railroad, please, and like and subscribe to the video for more.